And now for the sleeve. If you're going to work from the cuff up, you're going to want to bind off in the end and then sew the top of the sleeve to the side of the sweater, or you could work it from the sweater down to the cuff. But here we go with the cuff up. So it's cast on 46 stitches, work 12 rows. I gotta put my dowel back down to 3. How those needles got out, I don't know. Again, this machine, when I'm using the mast up there, it doesn't want to knit these Zen needles, but I don't have enough material yet to get a claw weight on. So I'm going to go easy and check the end of each row. And I can get claw weights on now. Again, doing the picot hem, starting from the 3rd needle in, with 3 needles over here. Of course, I could probably just have 45 stitches and not worry about that. But when I'm sewing this up, I'm going to end up, there's going to be -1 stitch on each side, so it's going to look like 3 stitches on the end here. Transfer every other stitch over. Easier to have those latches open. And of course, if you don't have that tool, which not too many of you are going to have that every other needle tool, just use your 1 prong, transfer all those needles over, make sure those are out of work, knit 1 row, bring the empty needles back into work, knit to row 24, remove my claw weights and my cast on comb for those machines that have that, and then hang the first row. Now I like using my 3-prong tool. I forgot, I like to have these open, easier to hang the stitches on that way instead of struggling. Again, just taking the outside loop of the chain that was created with the cast on. Now you can also, at the end of this, work this off on waste yarn and then graft the ending row of this to the side of the sweater. It's really up to you. And as you see, I am changing the garter stitch to plain stockinette, and instead of a rib hem on the body and on the neckline and cuff, I'm doing the picot hem. Well, for the girl. For the boy, maybe I would do the ribbed hem. Maybe I'll do a mock rib. Hang my comb back on. I always line up the center with the 0 there. And I lucked out with getting it right on the edge of the work. Okay, now put the counter back to 0, and then knit 48 rows. After a few rows, I'll hang my claw weights on the side again, and then in the end I will bind off on this one so that I could sew it in place. Now I got to row 47. 48 would be my last row, but I want to bind off, so I'm going to put my tension dial up to 9. If I was on the upper end of this, I would either do a different kind of bind off or work it off on waste yarn and graft it. But if you don't like grafting, then of course you need to bind off. And again, I'm going to bring these needles out to holding position. I'm going to remove my weights, and I'm going to do my latch tool bind off. Starting from the left here, just take that first loop like I showed before, and it's basically doing a chain. But I can tell when I catch the yarn from the first loop, it doesn't pull that second loop through. So then I would make a second sleeve, sew these onto the body of the sweater where I have them marked, and then sew the sleeve and side seams, weave in all the ends, wash it, let it dry laying flat, blocking it, and then it's done. Now this being the butted boat neck, I don't have to overlap this, although it probably would be nice because the neck opening would be smaller. But just to show you, I have the folded hem here. I'm going to take one stitch from one side, one stitch, the side stitch from the other side, hang it on that needle, go down to the next one, or maybe I could even skip a stitch. And the other thing is I need to take this marked one here, and this is where I'm going to take the 2 side loops, and I'm going to hang it on the end needle way over there. I'm sorry it's out of screen. But I want to start back here again. And if you have to, just separate the 2 folds there to grab your 2 stitches to put on that needle. Well, now I'm getting to the end there. That's the last one that has the 2 on that. Now I could take my 2-prong and go in through the stitches, and as you see there's a little bow here, so I could go ahead and I could skip a few stitches on the side here and there so it'll come up even, and I will have my 46 stitches as the sleeve pattern, the pattern tells me to get for the sleeve. And if need be, just use your 1-prong tool. Then all I have to do is grab my yarn. Oh, I should hang my cast on comb. Grab my yarn, thread it into the carriage. Oh, I want to take the bobby pin off. I don't want that interfering with the knitting. knit the 48 rows, take the blue yarn. I'm going to take a blue yarn to mark the beginning of the folded hem. Now I'm going to take my long double-eyed needle with some blue yarn that's going to be easier to see, and I'm just going to weave this in and out of the last row instead of using the ravel cord. This will do just as good, and actually this needle being longer, I could get more stitches done at once. And as you see, I have the needles brought out, give me room so I could do this. But I want to make sure it doesn't go on a hook. Now in the end, I'm going to take both ends and just pull back and forth to make sure that it slides. I'm going to push the needles back. Now I'm going to knit the 12 rows. I'm going to set my counter back to 0, make it easier for me. And actually I should move my claw weights up. Again, taken from the third needle in, leaving 3 needles on the end, but I also want to push those back needles out to open those latches, or you could use your magnet as well. Transfer every other stitch over. Now I could very well put these stitches to the right. It doesn't really matter. You just want to be consistent across the row is all. And that stitch didn't quite make it all on. It split. This really isn't too important to get it all on, but if it split it down to 1 ply, I would definitely get that on, get that stitch on the needle. Knit 1 row across. Bring the empty needles back to work. And now I'm going to knit 10 rows to be minus just 11 rows on the second half here. And something happened here. I see a bit of yarn from before. I'm going to have to check that out when if I could get it off. I may have to just pull that through. There we go. As you're looking at your work, you can normally tell if something happened. Yeah, I'm going to have to pull that through from the back side here. So I'm just going to go through the loop. 1 loop there at least. Grab that strand and bring it back. I should probably tack it into place as well. I'm just going to take it and put it through another loop. That should hold it. Okay, 19. Now I'm going to remove my weights, and as you see, the blue yarn is a little bit easier to see here, so I know what stitch to pick up to hang on these needles. As I fold the material on that line there, I could see the purl bumps. Now here's the first one. So I'm taking the top of the circle, even though the other side I may have done the bottom of the circle. Oh, and my latches are not open. But with just 3 stitches, I could get those latches open with the tool. So I'm going to go ahead, get the rest of these stitches hung on the needles. Now I could go ahead and pull this blue yarn out so it doesn't knit in. Put my tension dial up to 9. I brought my needles forward to holding position and then back into forward working position. And there's enough weight on this. I don't need my cast on comb. Knit my last row. Pull these out to holding position and do my latch tool bind off. After that, just seam up the garment, weave in any ends like I mentioned before, wash it, dry it, and it's all done. And there is the finished sweater along with a matching hat. Now here's another one I made. This one's for a boy. I have not washed or blocked it yet. The neckline is still curling to the inside. But I did the front and back the same to the bottom of the, where the sleeve would attach. Then I worked up the sleeve. I did both sides of this to here. Then I put half of the stitches onto waste yarn. The other half I worked to the other side of the sweater, and every other row I had reformed to create the garter stitch, which looks like a rib from this side. Made 2 of those, grafted that side together. On the other side it was over here. Sewed the seams up. Now I just need to wash and blot these and mail them off.